What's going on, guys? Welcome back to this video. Happy New Year. I wish you guys all the success, and I will wish you guys you will learn more in 2024 than you have learned in 2023 and be more successful. So let's get started with the first day of this year with this video. OpenCTI. OpenCTI. So basically here we have the CTI in red because first, we're going to talk about briefly, of course, it's not the subject of this video, but it is related and we're going to need to touch on this. Cyber, okay, T, threat, and I for intelligence. Okay, so it's OpenCTI. First, OpenCTI is a platform. So it is a platform for the CTI, which is Cyber Threat Intelligence. Now, what are these platforms used for? So why do we use cyber threat intelligence platforms or threat intelligence platforms? We use these platforms to collect first. Okay, we want to collect, input, store, manage, and most importantly, share. But what? We share what? We share threat intelligence data. Meaning we share info about threats. And that is the cornerstone of cyber threat intelligence. We study threats and we share the information with the community. So how these platforms work? OpenCTI. We have OpenCTI. Other open source or other cyber threat intelligence platforms are MISP, malware information sharing platform. We have the Hive, and we have frameworks also, MITRE. We have covered this before. Now, these frameworks and these platforms, the ultimate objective is to manage and share threat intelligence data. Now, where do threat intelligence data come from? Threat intelligence data come from, first we have, the incident response engagements. So if you work in an incident response team, you will be called regularly to handle incidents. Now, while handling the incident, you will discover the root cause of the incident. It could be malware, it could be ransomware, so on and so forth. So you discovered the malware, okay, and the malware has IOCs such as hash, domain names. We talked about these so much previously. Hash, domain, IP, and additionally, we try to identify the APT group or the attackers. So at the end, what happens after the incident response at the learning phase, the lessons learned, this is the last stage in the incident response process. Here, we wrap up everything we did during the incident, and among the things is classifying the malware, okay, classifying the advanced persistent group according to the MITRE framework, and therefore we have now threat data. The threat data now will be stored in a threat intelligence platforms such as OpenCTI, MISP, the Hive. It depends on the organization. So we store now the threat data from an incident response engagement. However, we cannot rely only on data coming from your team's engagements. We need to rely on another source, which is the community feeds. Basically, community feeds contain threat data as well. So it's not something strange. It is threat data shared by other incident responders about malwares, new threats, emerging threats. And again, the threat data is digested into the threat intelligence platform, OpenCTI, MISP, the high MITRE. At the end, we will have huge data about threats, whether it is coming from local engagements or from community feeds, and we'll be able to share reports, share insights, and ultimately we want to predict threats and use that to perform risk assessments. Alright, so now it's time to jump to OpenCTI and study its components. Now let's log into the OpenCTI, and for crediting information I'm using the lab offered by this room, OpenCTI. This is a SOC level 1 room, or part of the SOC level 1 pathway. We're gonna log in now using these credentials. Okay, gonna save. Okay, so we have an investigative scenario here. Before we deep dive into this dissective scenario, let's first go over the components of the OpenCTI. As you can see, we have the dashboard. That's what you see when you first log in. Dashboard contains a summary of the data digested by all the entities. We have total entities. Entities are the threats and the attacker groups combined together. They are 15,000. Relationships for every threat and for every attacker group, we have relationships. The reports coming from other open source report communities and platforms. In addition to local reports, there are 2,000 or close to 3,000. And we have the observables. We're going to talk about the observables as well. So the dashboard is a summary of the data found in your account or the installation. Now first let's talk about we have two main tabs, the activities and we have the knowledge. So the activities tab contains information about the threats. So basically in the analysis section, if you click on the analysis section, we can see the reports coming from different organizations in threat intelligence about recent threats. For example, we can see here MITRE ATT and secret report. We can click on the report and we can see information here. Above here we can navigate through this report using the overview, the knowledge, content, entities, observables, and data. Now, how are these reports digested into the OpenCTI? It is through something called the connectors. The connectors, they are external connectors and internal connectors. The external connectors connect the platform to other open source, to other threat intelligence communities. And in the analysis tab, we can see these reports. Okay, now if we go to events, as you can see, it doesn't have anything. Now, why is that? Because events, it is the section in the activities tab where we register the events that are handled locally. So here, we talked about this earlier in this video, that some data about threats come from your incident response engagements. So whenever there is an incident, you will have the data gathered and you will register the information about the events or the incident here in this section by clicking on the plus icon, and you will name the incident, the confidence level, and other information. So here this section here is about the local incident response data. Okay, the observations. All right. So the observations is the section that contains the technical elements. Mostly it is the IOCs or the indicators of compromise, hashes, IPs, domains, email addresses. On the right side, we can see the filters we can use to narrow down the results. For example, if you want to search for domain names, we can take a look at the domain names. These domain names represent technical elements discovered during an incident, and they could be also C2 domains. You can also look for IP addresses. Nothing. If you take a look at some of these entries, we can see it is a hash, and it is related to an executable file discovered by Malware Bazaar, which is another website used for sharing information and intelligence about malwares. Scrolling down, we can see other information as well, such as the report. The report is uploaded by someone who discovered the malware, basically. So observations, it is a section that contains the indicators of compromise. Now, if we head over to the knowledge, so the knowledge has 3 tabs: the threats, arsenal, and entities. Usually we will deal with threats and arsenal. So the threats tab, click on the threats. Here we can see the information about the threat actors, okay, the group of attackers that were observed, conducting a cyber attack. And we can navigate the threats clicking on intrusion sets. Intrusion sets, it is the tools, the techniques, procedures, and other infrastructure used by the attackers, classified according to the attacker group. Right? As you can see here, the entries mostly are attacker groups: APT1, APT12, Andreal, Ajax security team. So we can see here attacker groups, and we can see also, if we click on an example, APT1, this is an advanced persistent group, and this is the description of the group. Scrolling down, we can see the relationships, the attack patterns used by the group, and the reports that were submitted about this group by different communities. Here are also references. You can click on knowledge to see a summary of the information. As you can see, they used 28 attack patterns, 11 tools, and 6 malwares observed from this group. We can also filter using the right hand pane. If we want to see what are the malware classes used by this group, we can click on attack patterns, for example, and we can check out the TTPs of this group. As you can see, we have the cyber kill chain. According to the cyber kill chain, the techniques used by this group are highlighted here according to the cyber kill chain phase. For example, in the discovery, they use account discovery. We can also deep dive into more detail by clicking on the technique, and we can see that APT1 used account discovery against these platforms. Going back, the knowledge tab also shows a timeline of the TTPs used by this group. Here we can see reports from other open source, from other communities as well. Indicators. Okay, no indicators. So here the data tab is supposed to contain the files uploaded or generated for the export, but no files are uploaded here for export. And the history here, we can see the changes made to the element, meaning the APT group. The changes made by the the administrator of this platform. Okay, now let's go back to threats. So threats is the information about the attackers, the tools, techniques they have used. Now if you go to arsenal, here we can see that about malwares. As you can see here, 4HRAT, ABK. We can also filter if you're looking for a specific name for a specific malware. You can use the search box. Here we have the attack patterns. So basically, again, we go back to what is called the TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures. Here we can take a look at the details of the TTPs according to the malware classification. So if we go back to Arsenal, take an example such as let's see, agent BTZ. So here we click on the knowledge. You can see we have 6 attack patterns. Go back to overview, we can see description of this malware is a worm that primarily spreads itself via removable devices such as USB drives. Okay, let's click on now on attack patterns. Here you can see the details of the command line interface and relationships as well. So activate firmware update, we click on this and we can see more details about it. Go back to Arsenal, we have also the course of action, what can be done to prevent an attack technique. So as you can see, we have all the attacks technique here. We can click on every single one to have a look at the mitigation. The tools we have here, the tools developed for network maintenance, monitoring and management. Also, attackers can use these tools as well during the attack. As you can see, we have Bloodhound, CrackMap exec. All of these tools were witnessed while conducting an attack. And we have the vulnerabilities that also were used. Okay, now mainly we will deal with the malware section. Okay, so now having explained both these sections, we're going to go now and have a look at the investigative scenario. As a SOC analyst, you have been tasked with investigations on malware and APT groups rampaging through the world. Your assignment is to look into the CTI Wiper malware and APT37 group, gather information for OpenCTI to answer the questions. Let's start with the CTI Wiper. So we want to research a specific family of malware. We're going to go to Arsenal and click on search. So we found the malware we're looking for. Let's have a look at the description. CTI Wiper is a destructive data wiper that has been used in attacks against organizations in Ukraine since at least March 2022. Alright. What is the earliest date recorded related to CTI Wiper? So we're going to look at the first date of discovery. Definitely it is not this one, because this is the creation date of the entry in the platform. So we're going to take a look at the knowledge tab. This is the timeline. We can see that in March 2022, the first attack technique was native API. But when exactly did this happen? We just don't know yet. We want more details, like exactly at what day in March. So the first thing to learn is at first it was discovered March 2022. Now we're going to go to analysis, see reports submitted by different organizations. You can see the oldest report was submitted in 15 March 2022. Cisco CTI Wiper. So indeed it was in March, but exactly we want the day. It is 15 March 2022. Which attack technique is used by the malware for the execution? Now we're going to research the techniques used by the malware. So we're going to go back to knowledge and click on attack patterns on the right. Here you can see the attack techniques according to the cyber kill chain phase. During the execution phase, we have the native API. We're going to click on native API to have a look at more details. As you can see, it answers native API, and then how many malware relations are linked to this attack technique, meaning the native API. So now we are in the native API. We want to know how many malware relations. Here we can see the relationships. And malware relations are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But definitely the answer cannot be found from here. So we're going to have to go to knowledge. And then we can see the whole number of relationships. So on malware we have 113. Which 3 tools were used by the attack technique in 2016? Which 3 tools were used by the attack technique in 2016? So we click on tools, and here we can see the date and time of every tool. In 2016 we have Shimrat Reporter, Bloodhound, and Empire. These tools were used by the malware on that date. What country is APT37 associated with? Now we head over to threats. We want to research attack groups, so we're gonna filter for APT37. If you don't find anything in threat actors, you can head over to intrusion sets and research APT37. So we have an entry. You can answer this question: what country? Okay, so APT37 is a North Korean state-sponsored cyber espionage group that has been active since at least 2012, so it is North Korea. Which attack techniques are used by the group for initial access? So we want to take a look at their techniques. We're going to go to knowledge, and we're going to head over to attack patterns to have a look at the techniques classified according to the cyber kill chain. Since we want to answer with the shorthand name, we're gonna use this filter, kill chain view, and we want to see which attack techniques are used by the group for initial access. So initial access, here we have 2 techniques: drive-by compromise and spear phishing attachment. We can answer with the shorthand name. So this concludes the answers for the scenario and also the subject of this video. An attempt to gather all I could have gathered about the threat intelligence platforms, I just created a new node file, threat intelligence platforms. It houses information about 3 threat intelligence platforms: the MISP and the Hive as well, and OpenCTI. You can find it in the Google Drive if you are subscribed to channel membership. So that was it, and I'm gonna see you in the next video.